Welcome to CBR TV. I'm Jonah Weiland in the Tiki Room at New York Comic Con. This is my very last interview of the entire convention, and it happens to be with one of the best-selling authors of all time, Mr. R.L. Stine, the author of Goosebumps and numerous other books. Thank you for coming out, sir.
Jonah, thank you. Happy to be last.
Well, yeah, but you are first in my book. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but keep talking.
21 years of Goosebumps. When
Can you imagine?
can you imagine?
That's a lot of stories, I know.
That's right.
Usually, it's about 115 books.
115 books.
Usually when I say that number, I have to go take a nap.
We have a lovely couch if you'd like to go take one right now.
Especially since there are only 6 plots.
Only
There's
6
only
plots?
6 horror plots.
Really?
That's all, yeah. And somehow, no one has noticed so far.
Well, now you
We've
just
got
get to put the
115
secret out
books
there. You know, my niece and nephew, they're 20 and 22 now. 10, 12 years ago, they were absolutely into your books. And I read a couple at a time, and I remember thinking, I mean, let's say I was in my mid-20s at the time, so I thought it was too cool to be reading those. Right. But like every Christmas, like, give me more Goosebumps, give me more Goosebumps. When it took off for you, what was your reaction? Because I imagine you just wrote these as little personal stories that you were having fun with. What was your reaction when you saw the overwhelming success?
It was total shock.
Yeah?
No one expected it.
Yeah.
And actually, when the first 2 or 3 Goosebumps came out, they just sat on the shelves, and no one bought them. And I think if it was published today, they would have yanked them off, and that would have been the end of it.
Right.
It took about 6 months, and then they just started to sell.
Was there a specific moment? Something happened?
No, it's a secret kids network. Kids telling kids.
Yeah.
There was no advertising for it. There was no hype of any kind for Goosebumps. No one had ever heard of me, really. It just kids telling kids, that's all. And all the big book crazes, Harry Potter and Hunger Games. You can't ever force kids or get kids to read stuff because of advertising. They pick it, they find it, and they tell each other. And it was just this lucky thing that happened to me.
I can't. Obviously, you didn't achieve that kind of success that you've had with Goosebumps before that. But had you been a struggling author the entire time?
I hadn't exactly been struggling.
Sure.
I was an editor at Scholastic for many years, and I did a humor magazine for 10 years called Bananas.
Okay.
See, I never really wanted to be scary. I only wanted to be funny.
Yeah.
And actually, it's embarrassing, but it wasn't even my idea to be scary. It was an editor's idea.
Why did they think that you would be the right guy to write this?
This editor had just had a big fight with a teen horror writer. And we were having lunch, and she said, "Oh, you could write a good horror novel. Go home, write a horror novel for teenagers called Blind Date." And I didn't know what she was talking about, but I was at that point in my career where I never said no to anything. He said, "Oh, sure, no problem."
Right.
And then I ran to the bookstore to see what other people were doing and what a teen horror novel was.
Right.
And I wrote Blind Date, and it was a #1 bestseller.
Wow.
I thought, whoa, wait a minute, forget the funny stuff.
Yeah.
I've been scary ever since.
Were you a horror fan growing up at all?
Yes.
What
when
were you
I was
into?
a kid, Tales from the Crypt,
Oh, yeah.
all the comic books, the EC horror comics
Oh, yeah.
were around when I was a kid. I used to read them in the barber shop. I used to go get a haircut every week so I could read these comic books.
Wait,
I had even less hair when I was a kid. It's true. I would go every week go get a haircut so I could read the horror comics because my mom wouldn't let me bring them home.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess that was back in the day where they thought comics corrupted. I mean, that was when they had the Kefauver hearings at the Senate about how comics were corrupting the youth of the world. And little did your mom know that you were still being corrupted, just not in the house somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. I was being corrupted. Very good, Jonah. No one ever said that to me before, but that's good.
But you turned out okay. I think you did okay.
All right. It worked out.
What drives you? I mean, I was reading about you, and just like 400 million copies and 115 books, just Goosebumps. There's other books you've written. What drives you? What keeps you motivated?
I guess I don't know. What else would I do all day?
Well,
I don't know.
Sure, but was it something that your parents instilled into you?
No, they didn't understand it at all. My dad was a blue-collar worker. He never read a single thing I wrote. Now, I was this weird kid. I started writing when I was 9. I'm in my room typing. my mother's outside the door saying, "Go outside and play. What's wrong with you? Go outside and play." And I'd be, say, "It's boring out there. It's boring.
Yeah.
Too boring."
Yeah.
Type, 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 type.
Yeah.
And that's all I've ever done. I have no idea why I find it so interesting.
Huh. Did your parents live to see your great success?
Yes.
And what did they think then? Did they say, okay, well, maybe it was a good thing you were stuck in your room all day typing?
They took the check every month.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe that.
They were pleased.
You have a series that you created, Haunting Hour. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's on the Hub Network.
Yeah.
It's called R.L. Stine's Haunting Hour.
Yeah.
And it's like the Goosebumps show, only grown up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we did Goosebumps TV for 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same thing, and it's kind of horror stories based on the kind of stories that I do.
Okay. What about, isn't there a Goosebumps movie in production, or trying to make one?
You know, there's a Goosebumps movie in production. I guess who's going to play me?
Who's going to play
I'm
you?
I'm a character in the movie.
Okay.
Really? No, you have to guess.
You?
No.
Okay. Let's
That's
see.
it. Right. You know what?
Give me a
This
hint.
is my wife said.
Yeah.
I'm too old to play me.
Oh.
Isn't that cold?
That's very cold.
I am too old to play myself.
Wow.
That's really, that's profound too. Well, I asked my son who should play me, and he said Morgan Freeman.
No, I don't think that's
So
good casting. I don't think that's good casting.
That didn't work. So
No.
it's Jack Black.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you were going to
Jack
make me
Black.
guess. I had a good guess, actually.
Oh, who were you going to
Who was
guess?
the guy who played, oh my gosh, it was that kind of pseudo-documentary comic book movie, Harvey Pekar.
Yeah.
I was going to say Paul Giamatti could pull you off.
No, forget that. No, Jack Black. Come on, he's funny. He's good.
Yeah.
He'll be good.
That's awesome. Have you met Jack?
He's gonna meet. I'm going to, but I haven't yet.
Now, okay, so Jack's going to meet you, and he's going to want to get some of your mannerisms. What are you going to tell Jack Black about who Bob Stine is?
I don't know. It's going to be tough for him since I'm just home all day typing. I think he's in trouble.
You think he's in trouble?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think he's going to be okay. He's
Yeah.
a pretty good actor. He's a good character actor.
So
He
the
can pull you
movie
off.
might happen. You never know with movies.
Okay.
You know.
What about comics? You know, Goosebumps has been so huge as these prose novels. There haven't been any Goosebumps comics.
Well,
right?
they did 3 graphic novels
Okay.
based on Goosebumps stories.
Okay.
But no, we never did. We never really explored that.
Is that something
am.
you'd be interested in? I mean,
Well,
you grew
I
up
am.
with comics.
You know, I loved comics. That's all I read when I was a kid, really.
Yeah.
Until I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've thought often about doing. It would be fun to do horror comics, just to write them and have really good guys write them. You know, do the art. But somehow I've never found time.
You know, maybe it just makes no sense, especially with Goosebumps, because they are what they are. They're these great little novels for kids, and that's maybe what they want. Maybe they don't want the comics.
I don't know. Goosebumps you have to see in your own mind.
Yeah.
You know, when you read a book, it's all really happening in your head, and it makes it a lot scarier.
Yeah.
So maybe Goosebumps is better that way.
I'm not trying to age you or anything like that, but when are you going to retire? When are you going to slow down?
Do writers retire?
They don't have
I
to.
don't know.
They certainly don't have to.
I think you drop dead on your keyboard. Don't you?
I think that
that's what Robert B. Parker, you know, he's writing Spencer
Yeah.
dead on his keyboard.
Yeah.
I think that's what writers do.
And one of the
I don't know. You know, as long as people are reading me, why would I retire? It's too much fun.
Okay. You know, you mentioned dying at your typewriter. One of the greatest artists in comics, Will Eisner, he died at his table, drafting table.
That's right. I think this happens a lot.
All right, all right. Well, I you know, when I saw you were here, I was like, you know, it's not very often I get to interview an author who sold, you know, almost 500 million books, and I think that's got to be your goal before you move on to the next phase of life.
Yeah, half a billion sold.
Yeah,
I know,
you're like
with the
McDonald's all of a
arches.
sudden.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I like it.
Everybody who comes up to the speakeasy gets a little parting gift, and I don't give these at the beginning of the interview, and you'll find out why, because it's a little noisemaker, a little
nice.
CBR cowbell for you.
Nice.
See, if I gave that to you at the beginning of the interview, you would have just rang it the entire
time.
time.
Yeah, right.
Just because it's like, oh, this guy doesn't know
I
what
like
he's
it.
talking about. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It was
This
a pleasure
fun,
meeting
Jonah.
you.
Thanks a lot.
He's R.L. Stine. I'm Jonah Weiland, and this is CBR TV.